We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones.
And you're wondering why we don't have Starlink yet, even though it's available in other countries. Everyone online is saying it's because of BEE, and that the government is so corrupt that they won't allow us to have fast and affordable internet unless they can get a piece of the pie. Let me explain the real reason we don't want Starlink here. It's not because of BEE. It's about national security. Starlink isn't just an internet service provider. It's a monopoly owned by a billionaire from the United States of America. If Starlink is allowed into the country without proper regulation, it'll destroy local internet service providers. And once Starlink becomes the only ISP in South Africa, we'll be in serious trouble. Imagine one company, one American company, controlling internet access across our entire country. The next time we say something the US doesn't like, or if we take a political position they don't agree with, such as taking Israel to court for genocide, they will shut down our internet. If you don't believe me, look what happened to Ukraine. They have Starlink, and when negotiations over critical mineral resources were not favoring the Americans, one of the threats that the USA brought to the table was to shut down Ukraine's internet access. If you hate Eskom's load shedding, imagine if we had an internet blackout every time Elon Musk throws a tantrum. So ask yourself this: why would any responsible government hand over the nation's internet access to a foreign private company? No country which is serious about its future would ever do something like that. BEE compliance is just an excuse. The real reason we don't want Starlink here is because we actually want to remain a sovereign country. So no, it's not about protecting corrupt government officials or blocking competition. It's about not being stupid enough to give the US government a kill switch to our digital economy.
What do we want? The Starlink issue, was it part of our discussions? No. What we were able, and this is part of the offer or the package that we're talking about, is creating an environment for investments to take place. What do we want? We want US companies to come and invest in South Africa. That is a real deal for us. We want foreign direct investment. And to do that, we've got to create a conducive environment for FDI, for foreign direct investment. And where, for instance, in the past, we've been able to do so and attract US companies and utilize regulatory frameworks such as instead of BEE compliance, you could have equity equivalence. And US companies have embraced that. That shows that they are willing to go along with our regulatory framework, which we have crafted to attract investors to South Africa. And many other countries utilize a variety of ways to do that. I know, for instance, I was reading that when Tesla wanted to build a gigafactory, car manufacturing factory in China, they were required to have Chinese partners. And they had a negotiation with the Chinese government, and in the end, they dispensed with that regulatory compliance and allowed Tesla to invest directly as a sole company in building a giga car manufacturing facility in China. So what did the Chinese do? They crafted their own regulatory framework, and they were able to come up with a creative way of enabling an investment to take place. Because one, they wanted to bring in an investor, to create jobs in China and all that. So similarly with us, there's nothing wrong with South Africa to have in the past crafted an equity equivalence provision that has allowed many companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, you name them, they have utilized that same type of dispensation. And in doing so, we want to see how best we can attract further investors in South Africa and be able to get a regulatory framework that can allow them to come and invest. And where, for instance, our regulations may be a bit inconsistent with our great intention, we look at them. And somebody asked a question about Minister of Communications. Yeah, that's you, yes. He's going to be able, in analyzing the regulations of the Communications Act, to see how best we will be able to make them consistent with what we have done in other sectors. And that falls within the realm of creating that conducive environment for us to attract investors to come into South Africa without violating our own rules and regulations, our laws, but it's part of the regulatory reform that we can say we are looking at, because our key objective is to attract investors, to make sure that we are an investable country where companies from outside South Africa can come and invest. The Starlink issue.
South Africa has taken a major step toward opening its doors to Elon Musk's Starlink. On the surface, it sounds like a win: better internet, more competition, and expanded connectivity. But why is this move controversial? Why are some South Africans skeptical or even opposed to Starlink's entry? Let's break it down. First, what is Starlink? It's a satellite internet service created by Elon Musk's SpaceX. Unlike traditional internet that depends on cables and towers, Starlink uses a network of thousands of low Earth orbit satellites to deliver high-speed internet, even to remote areas. For South Africa, this could be revolutionary, especially in rural regions where internet access is limited or non-existent. However, while many South Africans see the promise of Starlink, there's a big debate brewing. South Africa's broad-based Black Economic Empowerment, or BBBE, was designed to correct the deep racial and economic inequalities left by apartheid. It requires companies to ensure that historically disadvantaged South Africans, primarily Black people, own at least 30% of the business. The goal is clear: promote inclusive economic participation and create real opportunities for those who were systematically excluded. Starlink has resisted this. Globally, SpaceX's policy is against local shareholding, preferring to keep tight control over its operations. Until now, that policy has clashed with South Africa's rules, preventing Starlink from launching commercially here. But that's changing. Communications Minister Sally Malatsi has proposed a draft policy that would allow satellite service providers like Starlink to meet BBBE requirements through alternative means, specifically by using Equity Equivalent Investment Programs, or EEIPs. This means instead of giving up 30% of local ownership, companies can invest in skills development, local training, and economic inclusion initiatives that support South Africa's transformation goals. This move follows high-level diplomatic talks between President Ramaphosa and U.S. President Trump, highlighting the geopolitical and economic importance of Starlink's potential entry into South Africa's market. It's seen as a way to boost investment, foster competition, and expand broadband access in a country desperate to bridge its digital divide. Despite the potential benefits, there's a wave of skepticism and resistance. Why? For one, some critics argue that easing BBB rules sets a dangerous precedent. They see it as bending the rules for a powerful foreign company, undermining South Africa's hard-won efforts to create a more equitable economy. If global giants like Starlink can sidestep ownership requirements, what message does that send to local businesses and entrepreneurs who have played by the rules? Others point out that while Starlink's satellites could provide internet to underserved areas, the service may still be unaffordable for many. Rural and low-income communities might remain excluded due to high equipment costs and monthly fees, essentially creating a two-tiered digital economy, one for the wealthy and another for the rest. Moreover, some worry that by allowing Starlink to bypass ownership rules, South Africa risks losing control over critical digital infrastructure. If foreign companies dominate the broadband market, local players might struggle to compete, potentially weakening national data sovereignty and security. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, or ICASA, has been tasked with updating regulations to support new entrants like Starlink. Public comments on the draft directive are open until June 23, 2025, giving South Africans a chance to voice their views. This policy shift could unlock huge investment and help bridge the digital divide. But it also forces South Africans to confront a difficult question. How do we balance the need for investment and technological advancement with our commitment to economic justice and inclusion? Starlink offers an exciting glimpse into a more connected future. But South Africa must decide, are we willing to compromise on transformation principles to get there? Or is there a way to ensure that both inclusivity and innovation can thrive together? The coming months will reveal whether this gamble pays off or if it leaves some South Africans behind.